Yeah, that's distracting. You want people to look at the screen, not us.
No Japanese film history is going to talk about the 1920s without talking about that film. There was a lot of discourse at the time about how Japanese film was inferior to Western examples. And finally, Page and Mandis came forward, and for many, especially intellectual film critics, this was something that was completely different from the regular Japanese fare that tended to be very melodramatic or was based on old tales of heroic samurai. There is this film that stands up to the level of any film made anywhere in the world at the time, and in fact might be much more experimental, much more daring than anything made at the time.
Are you tuning the lower one now or the upper one?
The upper one.
Oh, the upper one? Don't you want the upper one to be on D? If the lower one's on A.
Okay, then yeah, D, okay.
Okay.
D. But I wanted to be higher.
The film at the time would have been accompanied by a Benshi narrator. The role of the Benshi may have been actually quite important and expected by Kinugasa to take up some of the narrative slack. There are places in conversation where we see characters' mouths moving, where the Benshi might have spoken for the characters.
Its Benshi, Tokugawa Musei, was really one of the most famous Benshi at the time. He narrated Page of Madness, and there were reports at the time of audience members saying, "My gosh, Tokugawa Musei enabled me to understand this completely incomprehensible film."
Hey, Marcia, you want to play this?
Sure. What is that?
It's a Hawaiian tremoloa.
Oh my god, that's wild.
Looks like that thing shouldn't be bent that much. What, the, yeah, let me see something here. Well, it goes, maybe this adjusts. We went through all the sources we could find, and then we came up with our own interpretation of what the story was, and then tried to bring that out musically. Actually, every time we do the film, Page of Madness, there are certain things that are the same. It's the same basic outline, and there's cues that we have to meet for the story's sake. But it's never quite the same each time. It's different. It'll be different tonight than it was yesterday, and tomorrow it'll be a little different. We went to all the film scholars, and all the stories were different slightly.
We have a sailor who has been traveling the world and basically ignoring his family. He has been so cruel to his wife and their baby daughter that the wife has gone insane.
The fellow is a janitor. Her husband has taken this job to be with her and be able to look after her. And there seems to be a subplot in the film of the daughter. There is a question of whether she'll be able to find a suitable mate because of the stigma against mental illness in Japan at that time.
There's a point. Oh, I know what it is. You're coming in before the flashback even starts. He's looking at the button, I think, on the floor, and the button don't start before that. That's why, because you have to hear the water gong makes that flourish, so it's like a flashback thing sound, and then after that then it's okay.
I can't play it. Sorry.
Yeah, if you don't like drums, you can make one.
That's okay.
I mean, you could make your own.
All right.
If you want. Just do that. Just
Okay.
squash it with your teeth,
Uh-huh.
and then
So you don't want to.
I guess not. Just, yeah. Let's see. There's only 2 holes?
yeah, there's only two.
Okay.
Holes.
Yeah, maybe I should.
It sounds like a sax.
I can't get the high notes though.
It's a film that cries out to have music because it's a film that continually cites music.
Play something really classical,
Okay.
very dignified.
When the caretaker sees the marching band, yet again you have musical instruments on screen.
When we're doing the chase, an old man's nightmare, Stan is doing taiko solo, and then we stop, and then he gets thrown, and he gets lands, and it's boom. What are you doing, man?
Well, we could do it.
I need someone else to play the frame. I'm having, it's a really fast transition for me.
What do you want me to do? I cannot do like a builder. I only can do like a yoga.
Okay, as long as Yoko doesn't miss the cue, it's fine.
I want.
I can't. Like on the Odaiko part, I can't see. I gotta play like this, and I'm playing with my, like The Exorcist, Linda Blair in The Exorcist. Yeah, it'll be a lot easier once the screen's like right in front of us. Really big.
Kinugasa himself mentions that one of the inspirations for doing this was the fact that one day when he was riding the train, he managed to see the entourage of the emperor, rumored to be suffering from some kind of mental illness. Kinugasa, by taking up the topic of madness, was maybe making a political statement.
The masks play a very special role at the climax of the film, where the janitor gives a mask to each of the inmates and then puts masks on himself and his wife. No is a masked theater which developed in the medieval period in Japan and developed in the context of Buddhism, which is very attentive to human suffering. Father puts on the mask on himself and his wife. At this moment, he puts on a mask that's very similar to the Okina mask, which is a mask that's often used at the beginning of no performances, and it's of a very happy and auspicious old man who is a kind of god who, in turn, sort of blesses the no performance.
Functions to confuse the image and reality. That in some ways the cinema can turn reality into an image, into cinema. And perhaps that's what's happening with the masks as well. We wonder what kind of music was attached to the film when it was performed, and unfortunately there's just no record of that. The film was influenced by the ideas about cinema from French Impressionism, which looked at cinema as a very musical medium.
When Kinugasa discovered the film in the 70s, he worked with a musician in providing a soundtrack for it. Some people thought that this sort of electronic soundtrack wasn't appropriate for a film that had been made in the 1920s. Kinugasa himself seemed to be saying that he wanted a young musician to interpret the film freely and not try to be at all authentic to the period, but authentic to the spirit of the film.
Okay, we could be just like all the other experimental musicians, you know, just dress in black and hide from the audience and lie. Not public content.
Shall we wear sunglasses?
But we need to be a little, we need to be a little more personable. We don't have to be. That's why they're not. The cost per T-shirt is just ridiculous. T-shirt would be twice as expensive as a CD.
Oh, God. Wow.
But also, I don't have any upfront money, sorry, I ran out. Because I have to print programs too.
Well, you know, we should all go in on the cost of this stuff.
Hopefully I'll get it all back. Let's pray. We want to, on the English credits, we want to swell a little bit when Kinugasa's name comes up. And we definitely want to swell on when our name.